Hi everyone, this is a training on step 2 of the 10 steps program, which is personal and professional development. And I'm going to bring a PowerPoint up in a minute and go through why step 2 is so important. And we do say it's the most important step. And I'm going to cover hopefully enough information to help people realize that it's really underpins everything that we do in the business. So hopefully you can watch this video and give it some, hopefully it will give you some food for thought about why we do what we do. And I'll explain, it's quite a structured program that we use for teaching people step 2. And this video is designed to help people get a good, get a grip of it really, and work out what we're doing in the business. So I'm going to go through various things with you. And let me just bring up my other screen. Okay. So personal and professional development. It is the most important step, but we find also, curiously, that it's often the most neglected step, which is kind of frustrating, really. For us sometimes, but I think the reason why it's neglected is because people don't understand the importance of doing it. So what I'm going to try to answer in this training is why it's so important to do it. And one of the reasons for that is that lots of people, when they join our business, come into the business and they may have had, you know, difficult experiences. They may have had financial problems. They may have had issues of confidence, of you know, maybe financial hardship, maybe they've been through a bad relationship, and maybe they've had years of negative programming coming into the business. So I think it's really important that people recognize that. And the bottom line is that if we put garbage in, the human brain is a bit like a computer, and if we put garbage in, we only ever get garbage out. So we have to counterbalance or counteract the negative that people experience, both when they join our business, but also what's happened to them previously. And we have to try to develop ourselves so that we can see the opportunity for what it is. So this therefore covers why we do what we do and how to do what we do. So this process of personal and professional development covers the why to build the business and the how to build a business, because there are a number of things in both of those areas which are fundamentally, crucially important. So personal development, what is it? What is it really about? What it's really about is an individual having a vision for their future and having a clear mental picture of where they're going in their life. And most people, when they join our business, didn't go to school and college with a view to becoming clean easy distributors. They usually came here almost by accident as a result of things going wrong, i.e. they had more money going out of their bank account than they had coming into the bank account, which was the case with me. Or it might be that they're struggling to pay for the lifestyle that they would like. And so we don't join because we feel passionate about putting catalogs out. But what we have to do is we have to accept that there are tasks that we will need to complete. And the best way of doing that is to get passionate about our future. So the question is, do you have a vision for your future? Do you have a clear mental picture of where you're going in life? Because once you have that in place, you naturally become more passionate about what you're doing, and you become more motivated about what you're doing, and you therefore will take the action that's necessary. But if we haven't got a vision of why we're doing it and where we're going, the action will never take place, and we'll always find things interrupt us, because the reality of our business is all of the things that we need to learn are actually easy to do, but they're also easy not to do. So we need to develop a vision of where we're going so that we become passionate about our future. And that's really important. So it really involves you developing some plans and some goals about why you're doing the business. Why did you join the business? Where do you want to be in 3 months, 6 months, 3 years from now? And once you've got all that in place, the action becomes relatively easy. The planning becomes a matter of, it's simple, really. So we need to also take risks, though, in our development, because we need to sometimes do things which make us feel uncomfortable. And that could be picking up the telephone, speaking to someone. It could be speaking on a webinar. It could be speaking at a meeting. It could be coaching a new distributor who's frustrated. It could be lots of things. But that requires, development on our side. And it means that sometimes we have to do things which make us feel uncomfortable. So I call that taking risks. But it also involves a period of reflection and assessing and measuring our own performance, which is really important. So when we say assess progress, we need to work out, are we on track or are we off track? And are we developing ourselves in the business? Are we acquiring more skills? Are we informed? Because we need to be informed so that we can inform other people. And then we also need to observe results and basically watch and monitor the progress of the actions that we're taking to measure our performance and then to help other people measure their performance. And all of those things require more self-awareness. So you have to know yourself. You have to know what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. And it takes emotional security to actually coach other people in the business. And so all of these skills are things that you can develop. But first things first, you have to get passionate about your future and have a vision of your future. But that's really what personal development is about. It deals with why we're doing things. So the question is it hard work? Is building a clean, easy business hard work? And here's a picture of some people carrying some bricks. And this reminds me of a story about a guy who was walking along and he saw this building site, which was full of rubble. And there was all these guys carrying bricks. And he decides to go and find out what they're doing. So he asked the first guy who was carrying some bricks, excuse me, what are you actually doing? And this guy was a bit surly. He was a bit grumpy. And he said, I'm carrying all these bricks. What does it look like? And he was kind of a bit, flustered and a bit harassed. And so undeterred, he went on to the next guy. And the second guy was a bit more placid, a bit more laid back. And he said, excuse me, can you tell me exactly what you're doing here? And the guy said, yeah, I'm building a wall. And he thought, oh, that's interesting. And then he goes to the third guy and he asks the third guy, as he approaches the third guy, he notices the guy's cheerfully whistling a tune as he carries his bricks. And he says to the third guy, excuse me, can I just ask you what you're doing? He says, yeah, we're building a church. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to have stained glass windows, extensive car parking. It's going to have a crystal spire, and people are going to come from all over the country to see it. And he was so enthusiastic and positive about what he was doing. And he was cheerfully whistling a tune as he hauled his bricks. So there we have an example of 3 people doing the exact identical tasks, but 3 completely different levels of attitude. And this is part of personal development. The first guy, you remember, was a bit grumpy, a bit surly, and I call that a pessimistic mental attitude, because the person is focused only on the task itself. And if we just focus on the task itself, which could be, for example, putting catalogs out in the rain, or it could be picking up the telephone when we've had a long, hard day, or maybe we've had an argument with our boyfriend, or whatever it might be, and we don't really feel like doing it. We just focused on the harshness of the moment. And sometimes in our business, the harshness of the moment is real. It's not an imaginary thing, it's a real thing. So there's no point in denying that it's there, because no one really wants to go and put out catalogs, usually, if it's pouring hard with rain, or it's really cold, or whatever the task is. So the first guy, who was a bit grumpy, was what I call a pessimistic level of attitude, because he was just focused on the task itself. But you'll remember the second person was more kind of laid back, more placid, and I call that a professional attitude, which is, if there's work to be done, I'm just going to get on with it. And sometimes that's a kind of like grudging acceptance, but that's the second level of attitude. Now, we have lots of people that come into our business in that kind of mindset, that kind of attitude, and usually when that happens, we're really pleased that they're not like the first guy. But I believe that if you've got that sort of attitude, that's good, and you'll make some progress. But ultimately, you won't be really, really successful in the business if you just kind of got an acceptance that if there's work to do, you'll get on with it. And lots of people characterize people like that as steady eddies in our business. You'll hear this expression, I've got a few steady eddies, and they put their catalogs out and they come to meetings and they do quite well. And that's okay, actually. But ultimately, they're not hugely successful. The third category, though, the guy that was whistling the happy tune, is totally different. And he was happy in his work because he was focused on the outcome, or he was focused on the meaning that he attached to the work. In other words, his attitude was purposeful, or what I call full of purpose. And that's a hugely different attitude. So perhaps what we have to do when we're building our business is think more about why are we doing it, what is the purpose, and where are we going with it in what's the bigger picture. Because if we just focus on the task, sometimes it will seem to be like hard work. So if there is hard work to be done, it's on you. It's on your goals, because a person with a clear purpose will make progress on even the roughest road, and a person with no purpose will make no progress on even the smoothest road. And we have a pretty phenomenal road going in Clean Easy at the moment. We've got personalized products. We've got selling products online through social media. We've got over 2,500 products. We have people able to join our business and watch videos about our business at the click of a button, so we can get information out to huge numbers of people immediately. So sometimes we have a really smooth road, we have fantastic opportunity, but in order to make progress down that road, what we find is that people come into the business and the only ones that make progress are the ones that have got a purpose. So what is your purpose in being in the business? And then goals. Goals, here's a quote about goals. Wayne Dyer says that dormant forces, faculties and talents come alive, and you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever dreamed yourself to be. And my question to you is, what if that's true? What if you set some goals that challenged you as a person and made you grow and develop, and you became a greater person by far than you ever dreamed yourself to be? And we see this in the business all the time. And a good example of someone like that would be my upline, Gary Watson, who started out as a fish factory labourer earning 150 quid a week, who described himself as a stinking, thinking, miserable git. But he became someone worth 80 grand a year and beyond. And I think that it's really interesting that when we set goals, lots of people think about cars, houses and holidays, but what we actually need to think about is what we can become. So can we become a better coach? Can we become a better communicator? Can we become a more effective leader? Can we become a better recruiter? Can we become a more effective retailer? Whatever it might be. So sometimes we need to focus on what we're becoming instead of what we're having or what we want to have. So have you got a vision of your future? This is really, really important, because when you have a vision of your future, you have clarity, mental clarity, and you will automatically become more positive, more motivated, and more determined to make what you want a reality. So it's vitally important that you have a clear mental picture of where you're going in life. And that is a personal development issue. And the way that we achieve that is by reading the right books, hanging around with successful people, associating with successful people, and developing a positive mental attitude. So that's why we need to do personal development. But the other side of the coin is what I call professional development. And professional development really deals with the how to do it. So we talked about why to do it, but what about how you do it? And professional development covers things like how you manage yourself and your personal skills, and how you deliver service in the business. Now, most people understand, giving the importance of giving really good customer service. Well, when we're building a team of people or a network, the reality is that our distributors become our customers, and we have to deliver outstanding service to our distributor network in the form of the information, the training, the coaching, the quality of the information, and how we communicate with our customers, with our distributors, is really, really important. So customer service, just remember it that way, that our distributors are our customers. We also have to find solutions, because when we're dealing with logistics and new distributors, sometimes they can't see the solution. They might say to you, I can't get childcare to go to the meeting, and we have to find solutions to those issues. So we have to lead people, and that requires professionalism. So we have to also embrace change and use resources effectively. Are we reading the right books? Are we fully informed about what's going on in network marketing globally? Are we informed about what's happening in social media? Are we informed about how people are selling certain products and promoting certain aspects of the opportunity? So are we fully informed, and are we fully engaged in using the training resources so that we develop the professional skills at the right level to take advantage of the opportunity? And are we developing other people and providing the right direction to other people? Because in our business, communication is key. So are we developing ourselves, and are we developing other people? And are we working with other people in order to achieve the results? All of those things are professional behaviors, and it requires usually ongoing commitment on your part to develop yourself in the business, which means reading the right books. That's why we have a book program, which I'll show you. My screen's a bit slow. Okay. Seems to have a technical problem here. So skill and knowledge. Let's finally come up. Why is it important to have skills and knowledge? And the 10-step program, they cover a wide variety of issues within personal and professional development. But obviously, for example, GoPro, the subtitle of GoPro is How to Become a Network Marketing Professional, which is just exactly what I'm talking about. Sums it up really well. Beach Money explains how to get things like momentum and what the difference between linear income and residual income. So if you're a new distributor, you need to understand that. We also have books like Skill with People, The Art of Dealing with People, 7 Strategies for Wealth and Happiness. All these different areas cover lots of different aspects of the business. And then we get into the core books about network marketing and leadership. So these are really, really valuable tools to increase our skill level and our knowledge level and both our personal and our professional development, because some of them deal with the why-to, like 7 strategies, and some of them deal with the how-to, and some of them deal with both. But there's 10 books that if you read and study and answer the questions on our program, you will develop yourself as a leader in the business. And the reason why that's important is that it's vitally important that everyone develops a strong and positive image of themselves. And usually what we find in the business is that people go through a mental process of self-doubt, where they start to question, are they good enough? Will I make it? Can I really do this? And everybody goes to meetings and gets really motivated, and that's great. But what happens in their quiet moments on a Monday morning or a Monday night when they're on their own? What's their self-talk like? What do they, in their quiet moments, do they really believe that they can take on the challenge and come out the other side on top? And personal and professional development is massively important in that process of you seeing yourself as successful in the business, you developing the right levels of confidence to take on the challenge. So it's a case of strengthening and evolving the image you have of yourself. And in other words, as I was saying earlier about when we set our goals, the question is, who are you really? How do you see yourself? and can you set some goals that will help you become more effective in the business? Because it's most people focus on what they want to have, so everybody wants more money, so we set goals to have more money, when in reality what we need to do is to set goals to become more effective and more valuable in the marketplace, so which is usually a skills issue in many cases. So as we develop more skills and we become more effective, we become more valuable, and then we can have bigger incomes. So what can you become? Who are you becoming in the business? Here's the 4 stages of learning though, and this can be summarized as the analogy we use is a bit like learning to drive a car. So as we go through the 10 steps program, and step 2 in particular, when we start the process, most people come into the business and they have extremely limited knowledge and understanding of what the business is really about. So you could say they're unconsciously incompetent. In other words, they don't know that they don't know. And then they go to the next stage, which is consciously incompetent, where then they start to realize that there's more to the business than meets the eye, and their immediate initial perceptions of the business weren't quite right, and they now begin to have their eyes opened by the potential of the business, and they can begin to see the bigger picture, but they're not yet ready to take advantage of it because they haven't learned exactly what they need to do to grow their business. And then the third stage is when we become consciously competent, which means that we now can do some basic things. We probably have got some customers, we've learned how to retail, and maybe we're learning how to introduce people and expand our network, but we're still having to think about it on a conscious level. So it's a bit like the car driving analogy, is that we're driving down this road with our driving instructor, and the revs in the engine are getting higher and higher and higher. So we think to ourselves, I need to change from 2nd gear to 3rd gear, so I need to put my left foot on the clutch and move the gear shift, and that's how it works. So we know what to do, but we're consciously having to think about the process, where that means we're consciously competent. And then the final stage is where we become, that's the key, where we become unconsciously competent, which means that we can really do it without thinking about it. So just as once you've been driving for a few years, you go on journeys of 10 miles, 15 miles, and you just drive the car and you don't even have to think about what you're doing. You could be listening to the radio, talking to people on the telephone, on the hands-free, or talking with your kids, and you don't really think about anything else because you can do it without thinking about it. And building our business is exactly the same. And everybody starts in the same position usually, of being unconsciously incompetent, which means they don't know what they don't know that they don't know. But eventually, if you go through the program, you will become competent and confident in every aspect of the business, and you can do it without thinking about it. So that's the 4 stages of learning. Now, we're nearly through to the final part of this presentation about step 2, which is personal and professional development. And having gained some knowledge, it's really, really important that we measure our performance, because you can't manage what you don't measure. So in the 10 steps, there are 3 competence levels: competence level 1, competence level 2, and level 3, and they cover each of the 10 steps. So competence level 1 deals with steps 1 to 4 and so on. Competence level 2, 5 to 7, competence level 3, 8 to 10. And the reason for that is the steps themselves are sequential, which means they come in a logical, natural order, and we just need to work through. So steps 8, 9, and 10 are the leadership steps. So you don't naturally get good at those before you've done the first 6 or the first 7. So it's a bit like using the driving analogy. We don't teach people how to do handbrake turns on their first driving lesson. So level 3 is done after you've mastered and become competent at levels 1 and 2. And then once you've done competence level 3, we then have a leadership program: leadership level 1, leadership level 2, leadership level 3. So this is a structured program of learning for every new business builder that comes into our business. And all they have to do is read the workbooks, read the core books, go through the checklists, and so that they can measure their own performance so that they understand themselves that they're competent and they can do it. And that's the whole point. The whole point is that the individual can self-assess and measure their own performance. But we also recommend, of course, that you work closely with your upline, who will help you go through and prepare you for each competence level and tell you what you have to do to gain competence in those levels. And then finally, we also recommend that you, as part of your personal and professional development, that you spend time at your local or regional workshop. And that is really, really important, that once a month you go into the coaching program and you attend the webinars and the workshops, and you associate with other professional network marketers. And in doing that, you will certainly develop your confidence and your competence in the business. So that basically completes training on 2. And thank you very much for listening. But my advice would be to go to the 10steps.info and look at all the 4 books on the course, just make sure you have a checklist and you work with your upline so that you can tick them off. And as you tick them off, you do for your level of confidence, so that you achieve great things in the business. That anybody can do that. It doesn't matter where you've come from. It doesn't matter whether you were really well educated or poorly educated. It doesn't matter whether you've had lots of challenges before you've joined. The only thing that really matters now is where do you want to get to, and vision for the future. And then you develop the skills and you get the knowledge, you achieve fantastic results. I'd like to thank you all for the video, and we will see you hopefully at a workshop very, very soon. Thank you very much.